This is Duke University.
I spent this past weekend visiting an old friend at Princeton, where I was constantly asked about what I had studied at Duke. My answer was consistently met with the same response. Confused faces looked back at me and asked, "What is international comparative studies?" That's an excellent question, and one that is still quite difficult for me to answer, even after 4 years. I believe that ICS is a major for those who don't fit neatly into traditional academic boxes, for those who would like to engage multiple perspectives and fields of knowledge in confronting major global issues. I chose this major because it seemed like the high degree of flexibility would allow me to make my Duke education whatever I wanted it to be. More specifically, I chose ICS in hopes of better understanding the world and its peoples, which in my dark mind meant studying suffering and brutality. My transcript reads like a list of the world's most depressing conversation topics. You know, those that you should explicitly avoid talking about on dates or at family functions. Some highlights include nationalism in exile, war in Africa, and genocide in the 20th century. Luckily for you, or perhaps unluckily, depending on your perspective, I've never been a huge fan of politely conforming to social norms. So let's get started and talk about what we've learned as ICS majors. In our senior capstone seminar entitled Global Studies, we discussed issues such as the use of metaphor to justify the US imperial project in Cuba, suicide and functional enslavement in garment factories in China and Bangladesh, and the politics of aerial visualization with respect to drone usage in the war on terror. More broadly, we've learned about the ways in which global powers continuously create and reproduce degrees of humanity in the pursuit of their own interests. Furthermore, we've learned that we are all inextricably linked into these violent global processes. If our esteemed department heads are in search of a snappy new slogan, might I suggest the following: International Comparative Studies. The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. In our final class discussion, we reflected upon our lessons learned as ICS majors and were met with the following questions. Now what? What do we do as citizens of an incredibly unequal world where participation in highly exploitative systems is inevitable? To paraphrase Albert Camus, shall we kill ourselves or have a cup of coffee? I'm not sure. I have no great answers. But for now, I invite you to join me and pursue the latter option. I get the sense that as we enter this world as adults, or something like it, we're all grappling with these greater existential questions. What do we do with this newfound knowledge, and how can we live more ethically? Ideally, we'd all start revolutions and stick it to the man. Realistically, we'll do a bit of wandering and search for ways to feed and clothe ourselves in this flourishing job market. Regardless of where we're going, I believe that 3 fundamental lessons from ICS can help us live more consciously as global citizens. First, let us remember that we are students of international comparative studies and search for parallels where others fiercely assert difference. In searching for comparisons, we can reduce the sense of otherness that is intrinsic to dehumanization and brutality. Secondly, let's remain aware of the fact that everything is political and that all accounts are biased. We must always assume that we're being told a story that silences others in the service of power and question the agenda behind the dominant narrative. As my mother once asked me so lovingly, Kendra, why do you always have to go around criticizing everything? To answer your question, it's because I'm an ICS major. Stay skeptical. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, have the bravery to question what you love. Let us constantly and thoroughly examine our opinions and leave plenty of room for uncertainty in our own beliefs. Have minds that are attached to nothing and open to everything. Good luck. It's been real, and thank you for indulging me.